Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the BFNL Footy Show for another week. Great to be joining you once again as we start almost that countdown towards finals. We're not far away now. We've got the bye rounds coming up next week as well, and some very, very exciting football coming up in the next few weeks. My name's Sean Kelly. Great to be with you as always. Joining me as he always does is our co-host Liam Brady. Brades, welcome back, mate.
Thanks, Shawnee. Mate, I was back last week, mate, so it's the second week back from the holiday, mate. But yeah, looking forward to talking about some massive games from last weekend. It's some interesting results, some really important results that certainly shaped the finals at this stage of the year.
A couple of really important games last week, starting down the highway. Darley taking on Bacchus Marsh, and we thought Darley, bit of form coming into the game. We thought that it was going to be a pretty close game, but in the end, Bacchus Marsh absolutely walloped them, and just reminded everybody that we haven't talked too much about them on the Footy Show, and we said as much last week, but it's really time to start talking about Bacchus Marsh, and they're not just a finals contender this year. I reckon they're a premiership contender.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, Sean. I suppose the thing about this game was that Darley's form has been so unpredictable this year. They had a really good win against Lake Wendouree the weekend before, and I think I may have tipped Darley to win this game just based on that the performance the weekend before. But as we know, I suppose the disparity between their best form and their worst form has been a fair distance, I suppose, this year. And we saw on the weekend them, I suppose, put in a disappointing display on their behalf, but probably don't give Bacchus Marsh enough credit for the way they've performed on the weekend, and probably we haven't given them enough credit so far this year in general. They've been a standout side throughout the season. They're clearly second on the ladder, and they'll probably finish second. And as you said, they're a real premiership contender, so it's probably we need to actually say, yes, they are playing some great footy at the moment. They've got some weapons up forward. We know that Cupido has been a really good inclusion for them so far this season. So for them to beat their arch rival in Darley by, I think, about around 100 points.
100 odd points,
It was a great performance. So we need to take that into consideration moving forward.
Jarrah Maximo coming into that side really from about round 4 onwards has really given them a bit extra as well, because it's somebody else they have to cover. He can play back, he can play forward, he can go through the middle, and just a really, really dangerous player. And talking to a few people around Bacchus Marsh the other week, and said that he's probably almost too good for the BFL. He should be playing much higher footy. Yeah,
it's good to see a high quality recruit coming to the competition, and it certainly it brings people through the gates to see players like that playing. And just, I think Bacchus Marsh going well as a club is great for the competition. We know that they've spent some years down in the lower ends of the ladder, but they've got a great supporter base and they've got a great junior setup. So it's great that they can actually now know they're going to play finals footy. And as you said, they're a real premiership contender.
They are indeed. Another team that's going to be playing finals footy is the Sunbury Football Club, and showed on the weekend, obviously a very emotional day for Sunbury with the Risk Memorial Day and everything like that, but showed that when they play their best footy, they are as dangerous as any going around, because they defeated Redan for the second time this year and defeated them quite comfortably in another one where we thought Redan may go down, enjoy running on top of the track and everything like that. But Sunbury, they're really gunning for that third spot now, although this might not be the year where your third may have the inherent advantage it has in other years.
Yeah, I just think that possibly looking at this result, the effect that Redan has had playing on some heavy grounds in the last few weeks. They've played a few games at City Oval in heavy conditions, and whether that's taken something out of their legs, and I'm not too sure, because I don't think they were missing too many players in the weekend. Their side was pretty much full strength. There may be a couple of players that come back in, but I was really surprised with this result. Maybe we haven't given enough credit to Sunbury either this year. They've played some good footy as well. But in terms of the makeup of the ladder, this is a really important win for Sunbury, because they moved to third on the ladder. I think Redan may sit down to fifth with a loss. So
they're all Sunbury, North City, Redan, all on the same points at the moment, but it's just percentage separating them. But as we know, there's a fair few. You want to be there rather than falling that game behind like Sunbury would have if they'd have lost.
That's exactly right. So a massive win for Sunbury. If they can continue to play some good footy, they can finish in that all-important third position. Redan now, they've got to just get back on the horse and cart and I suppose play that footy they were playing 2-3 weeks ago. We know they're a quality side, they'll be there come September. Just need to, I suppose, recapture that form.
Yeah, they do indeed. Talking point number 3 for this week. Looking back last week at the AFL Goldfields Women in Football Lunch. Great support from the Ballarat Footy League clubs last week. 120 odd people at Tabcorp Park in Melton, one of the league sponsors as well, and a really, really good day.
Yeah, look, I wasn't there, but from all reports, Samantha Lane and Peggy O'Neill, the two guest speakers, were outstanding from all reports. So it's great to see this event being supported. biannually now. Sorry, it is actually
It's annually. It just changes
yeah.
which end of the league we run it at. Yep.
Yeah, but I think the contribution that women have on the game of football in general is getting bigger and bigger each year. So it's great that all the women that are involved in football around this region, many of those women attended the luncheon, and I know they really enjoyed two guest speakers and the whole day in general. So it was good.
They were indeed. Peter Searle, the St Kilda assistant coach there, as a guest speaker as well. And we had a chat to each of the guest speakers on the day as well, and put it together in a little package for you, I suppose, talking about the significance of the women in footy lunches, and I suppose just a couple of things that they wanted to impart onto the guests as well. So we put a little piece together from the Women in Football lunch on the day. Let's have a look at it now.
A very good afternoon to you, and welcome to Tabcorp Park for what is the 5th year we've been running the Women in Football Luncheon. It's great to see you all here this afternoon.
Well, I think it's important for women who work in the sport, any sport, to get together and exchange stories and have a good day and celebrate what they contribute to all of the community organizations. I think also lunches like this that raise money for very good charitable causes is something we can all be proud of as well. And besides having a really good time, you are doing something worthwhile.
I'll go through. But certainly an award-winning journalist with the Age newspaper, specialises now in the AFL. Of course, has done many Olympic coverage.
I think it's great, firstly, just to walk into a room and see so many people from a footy community and a netball community getting together, making the time to just chat and be together because of footy. Anything that kind of builds the bonds of the sporting community, I think, is really healthy, and just to sit down and actually exchange ideas. So I'm imagining that that's what's happening at the tables, and then lucky enough to, with Peggy and with Peter Searle, get up and I guess share some experiences that might even trigger some conversation and thought.
Yeah, I think it's very important in terms of, the girls are, getting recognition for what they do, for getting a group of girls together and understanding the importance of supporting each other and networking. But I'd really like it to get to a stage where we actually don't need functions like this, that women in football is just the norm as it is for guys.
A look at the Women in Football lunch last weekend. The next event on the calendar coming up very, very shortly, the Hall of Fame dinner. We spoke about it at length last week, Liam, with some of the absolute legends of the Ballarat Football Netball League taking their place in the Hall of Fame this year. And we mentioned legend as well, an existing Hall of Fame member upgraded to a legend as well. So that's a really exciting night coming up next Friday night.
Yeah, it's always a really good night, Shawnee. And I think the thing about this night is that if you just go along to it, you actually learn so much about the history of the Ballarat Football League, and just to hear, I suppose, people that have played with the inductees, and just to get a bit more background on I suppose, what sort of player they were, what sort of administrator they were. Adds a lot to the night. So, and I just also seen the elation on the families' faces.
Yeah,
when
important.
each inductee is inducted is a really good thing to see as well. So it's been a great night.
It has indeed. We're looking forward to that one next week, and of course we'll go through that in full detail on the Footy Show over the next couple of weeks. Liam, time to have a look at this week's games, round 14 in the Ballarat Football Netball League, and some pretty interesting games coming up this week, starting with an extremely interesting one, I reckon, at McPherson Park. Melton taking on Sunbury. Melton at the moment, percentage out of the top 6. If they can get this one, then they're a real genuine finals contender, I reckon.
Definitely. I mean, if they win this game, I think they're a huge chance to play finals footy. I just think that the way Sunbury played against Redown on the weekend, you can't tip against them. I'm going to base my tip on the way they performed against a really good informed Redan side. I think they'll travel to Melton, to McPherson Park on the weekend and win this game.
As long as they're switched on. As long as they come into the game switched on and going, and just not thinking that they're playing a team that they've already beaten this year and they're outside the top 6, because sometimes teams can have that mental effect. Not saying it happens at Sunbury, but it can happen in football in general. And Melton have really got their troops together again over the last couple of weeks, and they're really starting to look good, especially through the midfield. So Sunbury can't afford to take this lightly at all. I'm tipping them as well. But I just feel if Melton are on their game, they could really give this one a shake.
Yeah, Alex Magan in great form for summer. He's been an outstanding recruit. Probably haven't spoken much about him at all this year, but best on ground on the weekend again. So he's
right up there in the Henderson medal count, you'd imagine, at this stage of the year.
So definitely, and he's certainly a player to look out for come finals time. I like watching the real quality players play in finals footy. So I'm interested to see how it goes come September.
Yeah, it will be indeed. Both tipping Sunbury in this one. North City taking on Lake Wendouree at Eureka Stadium this weekend. Another game that should be absolutely fantastic, of course. The Lakers have been down a little bit over the last couple of weeks on their early season form, but they toughed one out last week against East Point in a game that they quite easily could have rolled over and lost in. North City, of course, had the bye last week, and I dare say there are a few North City boys in the stands keeping an eye on this one.
Yeah, the facts are Lake Wendouree have had a lot of players out. A lot of players out compared to the side that they fielded, say, 6 to 8 weeks ago. So there's no doubt that they'll get most of those players back.
Yep.
Obviously, a couple of long-term injuries, which is really disappointing for them. But they will get a lot of those players that are missing at the moment back over the next month. I don't think a lot of those players will be back on the weekend. So I'm going to tip North City.
Yep.
The game's obviously at Eureka Stadium. A really big game for North City to win, because if they can win, they'll be a big chance of finishing in that third position. So a really important win if they do get it. Lake Wendouree still got some players out, so that's the reason why I'm tipping North.
Yeah, no Jordan Burke for mine. Kind of tips the scales a little bit as well. He has been so influential playing out of centre half forward, not just for his playing, but also his on-field leadership this year as well. So just feel that I watched Lake Wendouree last week, and it's a game they could quite easily have lost. But guys, you get that midfield, and you get Steve Clifton, Nick Peters, Ben Taylor all standing up in that midfield, and it makes a huge difference. And look, I think that's just what sets them apart at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's still 4 rounds to go, 5 rounds to go before the end of the season. So I think the challenge for every single coach at the moment is, how do I get my side playing the best football it has this year come September? We know Tuddy Edwards was able to do that last year with his Daly side.
Certainly was.
So for the challenge, for Eamon Gill, Rick Hallwood, Gavin Webb, Jordan Burke, these sort of guys, is how do we get our players playing their best footy then? Is it about possibly tapering training off a little bit this time of year? You still want to win games of footy this time of year, really important. Yeah. I suppose the luxury for Lake Wendouree is they're still a couple of games clear on top. They can afford to drop 1 or 2 more. If that means that they're going to play better footy at the right time of year and be up and about come September, well, so be it.
So be it. Yep, very, very good point taken. Interesting game at Marty Bush Reserve this week. Sebastopol taking on Melton South. Huge chance for Sebastopol to get their 3rd win for the season. But conversely, Mark Peterson will be travelling down the highway, telling his boys that they are a huge, huge chance in this one.
Oh, definitely. And, I think Sebastopol have shown, certainly in patches this year, they've been really competitive, obviously winning a couple of games as well. So I think with the game being played at home at Marty Bush Reserve, I think Sebastopol will go to this game as favourites.
Yep. And
so they should. I think they'll get the chocolates.
Yeah, they've been in pretty good form over the last couple of weeks, have Sebastopol as well. Liam, as we missed a memo about turning the phones off today, mate, so you better switch that one off as we keep going along and talk about the next game between Darley and Redan. We spoke about Darley earlier. We spoke about Redan earlier. This game is crucial for both of these sides, in particular the Devils.
We seem to talk about Darley every single week and say this is a crunch game for them.
They all are.
They certainly are. They'd be very disappointed with the way they performed on the weekend after coming off a really good win against Lake Wendouree around the road the week before. I'm going to tip Redan. I think Redan will bounce back. They're a quality side. They showed that in the previous month before last weekend. And I think they've got a bit too much class right across the ground to account for Darley.
Yeah, look, they should have. I'm using the word should here because I thought the same thing last weekend against Sunbury and it didn't happen. Darley know how important this game is to rebound. They know that they can go a game clear inside the top 6 with this game if other results fall their way and the likely results fall in. I reckon Darley might just about pinch this one.
Yep.
I've just got that feeling.
Yep, no, fair call. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way. I'm just tipping Redan in a close one.
Yes, on Sunday as well, Bacchus Marsh taking on East Point at Mattingley Park. East Point were good on the weekend. They threw everything they had at Lake Wendouree, and they need to do that and then some more this weekend at Bacchus Marsh, who are the informed side in the competition at the moment. About that. It's going to be a tough ask for East Point, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough ask, but there's still a chance to finish 6th East Point. So, I mean, we know that Darley upset at Lake Wendouree a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So East Point, if they can cause an upset here, or they play North City the weekend after, they can win one of the next 2. It gives themselves an opportunity to finish in that 6th position.
Yeah, it certainly does.
So, I think Bacchus Marsh will be too strong at home. You can't not tip Bacchus Marsh based on the way they've been playing.
Not at the moment.
So, I think they'll have a good win, Bacchus Marsh. But East Point, the game's up for grabs. If they come to play, they're every chance.
Exactly right. And you know that if they win these games, then they're not just falling into sixth, they're deserving of it.
Absolutely.
They're beating the teams that they need to.
Yep.
That's all the time we've got for this week on the BFNL Footy Show. Thank you for joining us once again, and thanks, of course, to our fantastic partners, McDonald's Ballarat and Ballarat Toyota, for their support in bringing the Footy Show together every week. Thank you as well, Liam. Great to have you on board once again. Some really good insight again today.
Good to be here, Shawnee. Loving it, mate.
Absolutely loving having you on board as well on the BFNL Footy Show. We'll see you again next week.
Bye for now.